Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke.
Glory to you, Lord.
Great crowds were traveling with Jesus, and he turned and addressed them. If anyone comes to me without hating his father and mother, wife and children, brothers and sisters, and even his own life, he cannot be my disciple. Whoever does not carry his own cross and come after me cannot be my disciple. Which of you wishing to construct a tower does not first sit down and calculate the cost to see if there is enough for its completion? Otherwise, after laying the foundation and finding himself unable to finish the work, the onlookers should laugh at him and say, "This one began to build, but did not have the resources to finish." Or what king marching into battle would not first sit down and decide whether with 10,000 troops he can successfully oppose another king advancing upon him with 20,000 troops? But if not, while he is still far away, he will send a delegation to ask for peace terms. In the same way, any one of you who does not renounce all his possessions cannot be my disciple. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
In Luke's Gospel, Jesus begins his work in Galilee, in the north. And then somewhere around the end of the 9th chapter, he starts a long journey southward toward Jerusalem. And in Luke's Gospel, this journey lasts for about 10 chapters. It is there on that journey that we have the great parables about what it means to be a disciple, what it means to actually follow Christ. And people followed him in droves, big crowds, huge crowds. They followed him wherever he went. Whenever Jesus spoke about the self-centered rich people who refused to follow him, the crowds cheered him on. When Jesus criticized the Pharisees and called them painted tombs that looked great on the outside but were rotten on the inside, the people loved it. When Jesus spoke out against the legalistic, nitpicking scribes, they thought he was great. When Jesus pointed his finger at evil out there, they said, "Right on." But now, Jesus stops, he turns around, and he faces the crowds. Not the rich, not the scribes or Pharisees, but the crowds who came along. And Jesus says to them, "Now, what about you? Are you ready to follow me? Are you willing to carry the cross?" He looked at them, they looked at him, and undoubtedly there was a long moment of silence. And for some people today, there is silence also. Now, they don't say no, and they don't say yes. For some people, that silence can last for years. We have a name for this. It's called lukewarm. In the book of Revelation, Jesus has some very bad things to say about those who are lukewarm. You can look it up and read it for yourself. People would follow Jesus, but without a cross, without personal cost, without sacrifice. Yet the cross is the very proving ground of our discipleship. It is where we show our fidelity, our loyalty to Jesus. Like the crowds, we can be fans of Jesus. It's easy to be a fan. We like to be fans. Cleveland Indians, Browns, the Cavs. It's fun to watch them. The Lord had wonderful things to say, great stories, beautiful words that we can stand around and quote to each other. But the call is not to quote Jesus, but to follow him. To follow him with our cross. We all have a cross. It is obviously not a wooden cross like that of Calvary, but it can be the cross of family problems, a serious illness. It can be a cross of a troubling person at work or a troubled person at work. It can be a personality burden of our own that we have. It can be heavy responsibilities we have. Or it can be the cross of simply trying to be a good, faithful Catholic family. And every cross is unique. Our cross, in a way, is like a fingerprint. No two are the same. Now, people may have the same illness, but the pain is experienced differently, uniquely, personally. Carrying our cross is our way, our unique and very personal way of showing our fidelity to the Lord. There are other crosses we carry besides the ones that are personal. There are crosses generated from the world in which we live. The past century has produced many crosses people have had to endure. World War I. Then the prosperity of the Roaring Twenties, which really, in a sense, damaged lives and faith. Then the Great Depression, World War II, followed by Korea, Vietnam, and the half-century threat of atheistic communism. And just when we may have thought that the collapse of the Soviet Union ended the era of international threats and a peace dividend would be at hand, 9/11 occurred and all that it entails. Carrying this cross requires our being united as a people and remaining the kind of community that made our nation great and a light to the world. There's another kind of cross we carry as a church. Part of that cross is handing on the faith to the next generation. It's never easy. The culture around us has never made it easy. And yet, for us, seed was sown that fell on good ground and produced the Catholic schools and religious education teachers of today. It produced the people who fill our churches today. Someone took on the cross of transmitting the faith and sowed the seeds that produced our congregations today. We are now called to do the same. Today we still fight the battles of declining morals, perhaps more than ever. We're also fighting the battle to maintain our religious freedom. Who would have thought? The cross really is a part of everyone's life. Our personal cross, the cross of the times in which we live, and the cross of handing on the faith, all are part of our lives. Now, we can either stare at the cross. We could do that. That's one way. We can complain about it. We can curse it, ignore it, deny it. Or we can follow Jesus by carrying it as faithfully as we can. Each of us has a cross. Our generation has its cross. The church in every age has its cross. Commenting and talking about the cross doesn't bring salvation to you or me or anyone else. Carrying it as a faithful Christian does. Each Mass that we attend is a chance to break the silence that follows Jesus' question about whether we are willing to carry our cross and follow him. Each Mass is a chance to pick up our cross with Christ and for Christ. Notice I said with Christ. We are never, ever carrying our crosses alone. It is always with Christ and for him. We are walking with Jesus either as a crowd of fans or committed disciples. It's one or the other. The fans will hear and sing about new life in Christ. Only the disciple will know the power and peace and glory of the new life that comes from carrying our cross with Christ. Whatever that cross may be. The cross in our life traces that unique path by which we follow the Lord. The cross is how we come to spiritual maturity here and to glory with Christ forever. The cross we have, or the crosses we have, can change us in a very personal way from a fan of Christ into a disciple.